Hey, everybody. Today for you podcast number 38. Today's podcast is titled The MTB Culture. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of your weekly Limitless Life Network podcast. I'm Dr. Pete Lombardi, and this is the Limitless Life Network, where we flesh out the limitations that are preventing you from reaching your goals and living the life that you deserve. And this podcast is really for anybody that wants to have more growth and more freedom in their life. So I want to take just a moment to thank all of our listeners. Thank you. Thank you very much for taking a few minutes out of your day to listen. And I also appreciate all the positive and encouraging comments that I get. I love it when people are telling me, texting me, messaging me about something that we said on the podcast and how, that really hit home with them. That's pretty cool. And I love it. So, if you're listening for the first time, if somebody shared this with you, thank you. Welcome. And, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. That way you can catch the next episode coming out next week as well. And if you're at all interested in leaving a review, by all means, go ahead, leave us a review on Apple Network there or Apple Podcasts. And that certainly gets this podcast into more people's daily routine. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So love doing this. We're getting some great feedback, and I'm super grateful, very thankful for all of you that are listening. So tonight's episode is titled The MTB Culture, or this week's episode, even though I'm shooting it in the evening. It's 5:30. MTB stands for mountain bike. So the mountain bike culture, and here's the backstory. For the past several years, one of my longtime practice members and friends, he's been coming into the office and inviting me to go mountain biking with him and a group of his buddies, and which I knew a couple of them, but and they ride faithfully every Saturday morning at 8:00. Rain, sun, snow, nothing stops this group of guys. Sometimes there's a lot of people, sometimes just a couple, but they never seem to miss a Saturday morning at 8:00. And, but again, several years been getting these, hints and invitations to join them. And, back in the day when I was younger and in college, I did a lot of mountain biking. I really loved it, and I always have fond memories, and it's exciting. It can be, a lot of work. It can be a lot of adrenaline, but overall, it's just a great time. It's a great exercise physically for as far as strength and endurance go. So, I never took him up on the offer for several years. And last summer, my wife's cousin came to visit from Virginia, and he wanted to go camping, and my daughter wanted to go camping, and he brought along his electric mountain bike, and he's a big man, and my wife said, you should go for a ride with him, and so I'm like, okay, I'll go for a ride with him, and we decided to go mountain biking on these roads up in the Adirondacks near our camp, and I biked 2 different days with him. And what I realized was that, 1, I wasn't really in great biking shape anymore. And 2, I still really enjoyed it. I still really loved going downhill, and I still had a lot of the same technical skills that I used to have when I rode regularly. So it was really encouraging. Well, the winter comes and goes, and still haven't been mountain biking since the summer. And along comes my practice member. Hey, we're riding again. You should join us this spring. And so I think I joined in on the first ride in May. I decided to go. I literally have set the time aside and got everything ready, and I went along on the ride, and boy, was I out of shape. And I kind of dropped out early. Wasn't feeling very good, and decided, you know what, I'm going to return again, but I'm just going to be better prepared. So a couple weeks goes by, and a friend of mine decided to loan me one of his mountain bikes. He said, you know what, you're really not riding a great bike. You should really try one of my bikes. And he's an avid rider. So this other guy, another friend of mine, says, you know, I'm gonna let you borrow my bike. I really want you to ride it. I want you to experience, because they've really changed a lot since you've ridden. So yeah, it's been 28 plus years since I've been really avidly mountain biking. Obviously, technology's come a long way. So borrowed his bike, and we went riding, and I had a blast. And yes, he was correct. It made a huge difference. So lo and behold, the next thing I know, I find myself in the bike stores, shopping bikes, trying bikes. And the next thing you know, I purchase a really nice mountain bike. And away we go with all the accessories, and I'm into it now. So since that bike coming in and picking it up, I've gone riding a few times, and it's been an absolute blast. And last weekend, I even took my son with me since he was home from college, and we had a good time. So, looking back at this whole endeavor, I have some really, I think, hopefully they're insightful takeaways for everybody here. And I probably could have came up with more than 5, but 5 always seems to work. But point number 1 is this, and I think you might be able to figure this out. Right from the beginning of the story, I told you, how I just kind of eased back into it. And point number 1 is this: starting small helps to build momentum. And it's really nice if you're thinking about doing something, whether it's exercise, whether it's changing a lifestyle habit of some nature. Start small and get a feel for it. Get some wins under your belt, because that builds momentum. If you're gonna try a new exercise routine, instead of going in and wide open and cranking out the whole thing, maybe you just start with a part of it. And we do this oftentimes in the office with, and as far as chiropractically and trying to help correct people's spines, we start people very slowly with different exercise routines, especially these different traction things that we've used over the years. Because we find if people go at it too aggressively, they get discouraged because it's not easy, it's uncomfortable, it's difficult. Same thing with biking, same thing with running, same thing with lifting weights, same thing with swimming. Like, you don't go out and say, hey, I want to take up swimming, and I think I'm going to swim the English Channel. That doesn't make a lot of sense. But yet we try to do that with other things, right? Like, we'll try to do that with a diet. I'm going to go full bore carnivore, and that's it. You throw everything out, and you're just going to eat meat altogether. Or I'm going to go full blown keto, or I'm going to do vegan, or big extremes with that's usually not going to be sustainable. But if you start slowly and you build momentum to something, eventually you can make a pretty dramatic shift. So start small, start easy, build momentum. Number 2 is community makes it better. And I have to say that, joining in with a group of people is super encouraging, because Saturday morning at 8:00, who wants to get up at 6 a.m. Saturday to be ready to leave the house by 7 a.m. to get there in time to be on your bike and ready to ride by 8 p.m. if, you got to drive a little ways to get to these different trailheads. So, but if you got a group of guys that are going to meet you, or a group of ladies that are going to go for a run at a certain time at a certain location, whatever it might be, but a community, you start to lean on one another. You start to draw from each other, and that I guess ownership, or I guess you feel a little bit more compelled, I guess is a good way to put it. You feel compelled to want to be there because you don't want to disappoint. You don't want to let somebody down, even though they probably aren't going to feel let down. You want to show up because you want to keep the momentum going yourself. So they were super encouraging. they have been super encouraging. When my son joined for the first time, everybody was super encouraging to him, really trying to make the experience as good as possible. So a community that really is looking out for your best interest and wants you to be a part of it, they're going to do all those things, and that's really precious. And if you're not part of any type of community like that, I think you should seek it out. You should look for communities that you want to be a part of, because they will strengthen you. They will add more quality to your life. They will allow you to go further than you could go on your own. So that's a cool one. Point number 3 is time is precious. And we all know that. But here's the deal. What you prioritize gets put into your schedule. And a lot of us have a lot of lip service, and we say a lot of things and have, we may want to do something, but if it's not in your schedule and if it's not something you're willing to show up for, then it's probably not a priority. And we always say that you can find out what people value and what people prioritize by looking at where they spend their time and their money. And it's very clear that I want to make, this healthy habit of mountain biking, I want to make it a priority. And I've already spent time and I've already spent money on this activity. Now it's a matter of continuing that process, right? And that's where, again, community helps support you with that. It also allows relationships to grow deeper in a community like that. So time is precious. So if you're spending that time with quality individuals, you'll foster relationships, and that will allow more opportunities into your life as well. So I think it's time well spent to do, a couple hours of riding. All in all, it's probably, from by the time I leave my house to get back to my house, it might be 4 or 5 hours. But to me, that 4 or 5 hours it's a really valid investment. Will I be doing it every single week? Yeah, maybe not. But at the same time, I feel very confident and comfortable returning to it at any given time, for sure. Okay. And then we're on to this. Point number 4, I kind of alluded to it a little bit, and that is investing in quality stuff really sweetens the pot. What do I mean by that? Sweetens the pot. Well, if you've ever gotten into any hobby or any interest, when you buy good quality things, it makes the experience better because things work better, they last longer, and you're also very anxious to try out, or not anxious, you're looking forward to trying out something that you've spent some money on, or maybe something of higher quality. So, from an experiential standpoint, your quality of materials, your quality of tools, whatever they might be, I've always found that going with higher quality pays off in the end. I know a guy that's into podcasting, and he's bought several microphones. I can't tell you how many microphones that he has purchased at this point. And when he first got going, I recommended these microphones. And these are not cheap microphones, but they're not going to break the bank. And he decided, I'm going to start with just a simple, cheap microphone. And then the sound quality sounded not so good. Then he went to another one, and then he tried a different one. And I don't know what microphone number he's on now, but I know that he just recently reached out to me and asked, what was this model of microphone again that I use? So again, it's better to me, it's cheaper in the long run, oftentimes, to invest in better quality things. Not only can they produce a better experience, but oftentimes they just last a lot longer and they're more reliable. So investing in quality stuff sweetens the pot. And not to mention, you know what? I have this new bike and I really enjoy it. And I'm looking forward to getting back out on it again. Like after this podcast, I might just take a rip on it. So, and then we have point number 5. And this is kind of an interesting one. Point number 5 is old memories can be rekindled. And it's kind of a nostalgia type of a point here. And that is, it's amazing what you retain. And you may have heard the saying, it's like riding a bike, right? It's like riding a bike. You never forget how to ride a bike. Well, it's been, since I've seriously mountain biked, it's been 28 plus years. That's a long time. And I was surprised, pleasantly surprised at what I can still do on a mountain bike. I'm not bragging or anything, but I really was a bit intimidated and a bit nervous that I was not going to be able to handle some of the technical aspects of mountain biking. And of course, as you get older, you get a little bit more conscientious of hurting yourself. When you're younger, you're a lot more fearless. But yeah, I was amazed, and it really comes down to muscle memory. And if you've done something a lot in the past, it will come back to you very quickly because your brain works that way. Once you've created a bunch of pathways in your neurology, to rekindle those pathways, it doesn't take that long for that muscle memory or those pathways to fire faster and faster and faster, and the more you use them. I know that I hadn't picked up a fly rod in over 25 years at one point, and I decided to do some fly fishing last summer. And within a few minutes, it all came back to me: how to cast, how to land a fly on the water. And within no time, it came back very quickly because I had spent a lot of time developing that touch or that feel or that action. So, you can do the same thing. There's things that maybe are in your past that, you've neglected or you've just kind of let those things go. But there's a season where you could pick them back up again. And, maybe it's golf. Maybe you used to play golf, you used to enjoy it. And you know what? You've been reluctant to go. Your clubs aren't really any good anymore. The grips are shot. Maybe it's time to just go out, get yourself a new set of clubs, and go to the driving range and hit a few balls, get some momentum, and then play a par 3 course. All I'm saying is this: is that don't set up a limitation in your life that you can't do it anymore because you've aged out. You'll shock yourself of what you can still do. If you've been taking care of yourself and your mind is sharp and your body is healthy, and if it's not healthy, you can get it healthier to the point where maybe you can go back and enjoy some of the activities that you used to do if you're not doing them anymore. So I just want to encourage you guys to do that, to keep striving and pushing forward. This podcast is meant as a piece of inspiration too at the same time. So that's all I have for this week's edition of your weekly Limitless Life Network podcast. Be sure to tune in each and every week to stay connected, be inspired, and keep moving towards your best life by stripping away your limitations. And we will see you next week.